Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to our gathering here at First Unitarian Universalist Church of Stockton. We're glad you have joined us and hope you will find here what you are seeking. We are a community of individuals holding many different beliefs, coming from many different places, each progressing on our own journeys of life and faith. We join together in our commitment to care for humanity and in our effort to shape a better, healthier, more hopeful world. We promise to accept and encourage all those persons of goodwill who gather here, recognizing that we all continue to grow and learn throughout our lifetimes. We especially welcome and stand with LGBTQ plus persons, even as we seek to welcome all persons of every age, ability, status, color, and ethnicity. We strive to make our community a place of peace and acceptance, love and nurture, even as we challenge ourselves and others to live more faithfully according to the values of Unitarian Universalism. Seems like there must be some announcements. I think with all the dust being raised, my allergies are worse, so I'm struggling a little bit with that. We do encourage people to keep masks on, at least for the time being, because we do have some vulnerable folks around. For those of us up in front, just so you'll be able to see us, hear us, and read our lips, we probably will not have masks on at the microphone. And if you have anything you need to say, we'd ask that you'd come up here. Let's see. We were planning to start religious education programming on the 3rd. The person that we thought we were getting decided not to do that, but just a few minutes ago I got another possibility, so we may be able to do that. We'll watch for notices. We're working on it. But Michaela is here, and she will watch the kids if they need to go out. We're not going to sing kids out at this point, but we'll try and get back to that fairly soon. Let's see. I think you got, as you came in, this information about Family Promise. The Family Promise program, we will start hosting families in May. So if you look on the back, you see what kind of positions are open for volunteers. And Gloria can help connect you with some volunteer opportunities, and she's there in the back.
Good morning. You see the flyer for Family Promise. I have a long list of emails for most of the congregants here. If you have not been receiving my email, let me know. If you want to be on our emailing list, let me know. We're going to be starting May 15th. I know that seems like right on us, but Family Promise is not actually starting until the end of March. So there are volunteer training opportunities right now. It's at home and it's virtual. We are working with the Cathedral of the Annunciation. They have a set of volunteers. We'll get together, meet these great people, and for 1 week, 4 times a year, we will be a community that supports homeless children here in our church. Yay! So thank you very much.
Good morning. Our opening words are a poem by Langston Hughes, In the Time of Silver Rain. In the time of silver rain, the earth puts forth new life again. Green grasses grow and flowers lift their heads. And over all the plain the wonder spreads of life, of life, of life. In the time of silver rain, the butterflies lift silken wings to catch a rainbow cry. And trees put forth new leaves to sing in joy beneath the sky, when spring and life are new. Would Mary Bullard please come up and light the chalice? And while she lights the chalice, let's read the words in your order of service. We light our chalice in celebration of the coming spring in the ever-ongoing cycle of seasons. This year we need the spring even more than most years, for it is a season of hope and new life. Blessed be. Words by our lovely Bob.
We kindle this light in celebration for the life that we share. We kindle this light in celebration for the life that we share. We kindle this light in celebration for the life that we share.
Please stand and join us in our opening hymn, which is Rising Green, and it's in this book, the Teal book, number 1068. Beautiful song.
My blood doth rise in the bruise of John Oak. Her sun doth run in my veins. Boundless my soul like the open sky, with the stars forever have lain. Where the stars, where the stars, where the stars forever have lain. My hands hold the wheels of time without end. My side as deep as the sea, beating my heart as the measures of hope that will love eternity. That of love, that of love, that of love's eternity. I feel the tides as they answer the moon, rushing on the far distant sand. Winging my song is the wind of my breast, and my love goes over the land. And my love, and my love, and my love goes over the land. My foot carries days of the old into new. Our dreaming shows us the way. Wondrous our faith settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green, rising green, rising green to bring a new day.
Let's do our words of affirmation together. The children can lead us. I will read with the children. We believe in love.
Love is the only doctrine of this church.
We believe in truth.
The quest for truth is our sacrament,
We believe in helping others.
and service is our prayer.
We believe in the sacredness of life.
To dwell together in peace, seek knowledge and freedom, serve humanity in fellowship, and cherish the earth and its creatures. This do we covenant, each with the other.
Winter rains have turned the star, springtime is upon us. Winter rains have turned the star, springtime is upon us. Sharp the smell of fall, bursting in our eyes, the turrets of the tulip. Winter rains have turned the star with springtime. rains have turned the soil, with springtime is upon us. Green is the grass of the plum grounds, the sunlight warm caresses. Winter rains have turned the soil, with springtime is upon us.
I found this book in our school library. It's called The Red Poppy, and it's by Irmgard Lucht, and it doesn't list anyone else, so she must have done the incredible paintings. They must be paintings, and they remind me of Georgia O'Keeffe. Spring is a green time, far and wide. The countryside is green, the trees and fields are green, as are the meadows and the forest. Sorry. The farmer has tilled the fields so that everything can grow. What will grow in the fields and the meadows will feed people and animals. The wind sweeps over the rye field and bends the countless stalks. Almost every seed the farmer has sown has grown into a plant. Each plant has roots, leaves, and a stalk. Each stalk has an ear. The ears bear fruit, grain, the fruit of cereal plants. Grain for flour and for bread and for the seeds of new plants. The stalks of rye grow tall and stand close together like a forest. Other plants grow on the edge of the field as well. No one planted them. They just grow wild there. Beautiful violet pansies and red poppies grow and bloom. Spots of color in the green field. The poppy buds droop as if wilted, but it only looks that way. They're waiting. During the night, strength flows into the delicate stems. They stand up straight as the flowers struggle to free themselves from the sepals. I hope I'm saying that right. The sepals are the green leaf-like parts that protect the bud while it develops. The folded blossom is strong, and it struggles out of the sepal's tight wrap. It no longer needs protection. Without anyone noticing, a small miracle has happened. The bud has given birth to a flower. The petals are still crumpled and nearly closed, but when they open, they will be as shiny and beautiful as silk. The 4 petals surrounding the flower's center will stretch out in the sunshine. Finally, the poppy has bloomed. The flower opens up wide to attract visitors. Insects are drawn by the flaming red color, for color is the language of flowers. Hungry insects will eat the poppy's pollen. The poppy will also cling to their bodies as they travel from flower to flower, searching for food. Some of it may fall into the blossom's heart. All right, check it out. Ready? So amazing. The blossom's heart is the pistil. Surrounding it in a tight garland are many stamens. Growing on the stamens is powdery pollen. Pollen is more than just food for insects. It is life-giving dust. Only a little needs to get inside the pistil in order for new seeds to grow. Although each poppy makes its own, it must get pollen from another poppy in order to grow new seeds. For that, it needs the help of insects. For one summer's day, a day of sun and wind and perhaps a shower of rain, the poppy bloomed. I'm going to say spring because they bloom in spring here. On that one day, it is visited by flies, beetles, and bumblebees. The pistil, now fertilized with pollen, swells to become a capsule that will hold seeds for new poppy plants. The flower's shimmering petals wilt, no longer needed. The fly passes by it, looking for nutrition elsewhere. But what remains is what is most important. The small green capsule. In it, the new poppy seeds are growing. Days of sun and rain alternate as spring draws to an end and summer. Where flowers once bloomed, grain and fruit now open. The poppies are ripe too. Their capsules are large as they sway in the breeze. They drop dark, tiny grains, the poppy seeds, onto the ground. Although each seed is smaller than a grain of sand, it contains the life of a new poppy. When spring comes again, poppy plants will grow where the seeds fell, and in the summer, or in the spring, new flowers will bloom. Summer is also a golden time. The fields of rye and other grain shine brightly between the meadows and the farmland, as if the sun were playing hide and seek. Harvest time begins in summer and continues into autumn. Then winter comes and puts nature to rest. While nature sleeps, it gathers strength. When springtime returns, nature adorns itself with green again and with colorful flowers. But only in summer will nature reveal her most beautiful color in the flower that blooms on the edge of the fields, the bright red poppy. Cool.
Milestones in our lives by lighting candles of joy and concern. And I invite anyone who would like to light a candle to come forward and do it at this time. We do give thanks for all the good energy of those helping with the water-saving project, and for all the goodness of gathering that we have shared this weekend. The recycling events have become quite a way of connecting during these times where we haven't been able to do very many other things together. But yesterday was particularly busy with all the work on the yard that was going on. We send our good energies to those in need wherever they are in the world, those in this community and those far away. We send out our hopes for peace as we enter the spring season this day. We send out our hopes for a healthier, more loving, more peaceful world. And we know it starts with us here. And we give thanks for this community and for the love that is shared here. For all these things, we give thanks. Amen. I invite us now to turn to Spirit of Life, which is printed in the program.
Our responsive reading is number 510 in the back of your hardback hymnal, and it's by Jane Rezka. I'm sure I mispronounced that, so apologies. O Spirit of life and renewal, we have wintered enough, mourned enough, oppressed ourselves enough. Our souls are too long cold and buried, our dreams all but forgotten, our hopes unheard. We are waiting to rise from the dead. In this, the season of steady rebirth. We awaken to the power so abundant, so holy, that returns each year through earth and sky. We find our hearts again, and our good spirits. We will love and believe and give and wonder and feel again the eternal powers. The flow of life moves ever onward through one faithful spring and another, and now another. May we be forever grateful. Alleluia. Amen.
And now I invite the sharing of gifts and offerings. If anyone would like to make a donation to support the work of this congregation, you may do so at this time. The plate is in the middle. We are not passing it for at least the foreseeable future to limit contact. But we'll be glad to take your shared offerings. The Vernal Equinox. Spring arrived at 8:33 this morning. Doesn't this spring weather feel wonderful? Most of this week we are expecting to be in the 80s. We didn't have much winter that actually felt like winter, and a lot of days recently have felt more like how summer ought to feel. I know there are places that could receive several inches of snow on into May. I remember getting about 17 inches of snow on May 14th one year when I was in Montana. But the climate here is getting hotter and drier. When I was growing up just outside Chicago, we never watered the lawn. When it dried out in the fall, we were just glad we didn't have to mow it as often. But there would be at least some rain or snow in every month. Little Rock received even more precipitation than Chicago, 77 inches one year while I was there. With all the grass around here, I've been surprised how dry it can be. It will help my transition to living in the desert, though. I'm really glad to see us making progress toward removing the grass at the church, thanks to Dick and Jerry and all those who are helping with the water-saving garden. I've enjoyed seeing one other important national marker of spring this week. With the lengthy lockout settled and a new contract in place, baseball finally began spring training games. I was able to watch the first televised game between the Cubs and White Sox on Thursday. Next year, I'm going to try to get to that game, especially if it's in Mesa. That's where it was. One of my least favorite signs of spring happened last weekend when we turned our clocks forward. But there is hope that next year we may keep daylight savings time permanently. Sorry to all you morning folks. The Senate actually passed the bill that will make that happen, so if the House agrees and the President signs it, starting next year we won't have to go through that painful sleep deprivation ritual. The hardest thing this spring has been watching coverage of Putin's invasion of Ukraine. So many of the images of people and buildings in Ukraine could be taken anywhere in the world, including the United States. These people are citizens of a modern democracy being hurt and killed by untargeted weapons from the last century. There are also historical buildings and monuments that have stood through world wars that will likely fall if this war continues. It is more than discouraging that Putin chose to make what is usually a time of new life into a time of death and destruction. The courage of the Ukrainian people and their leader has become a sign of hope that they might actually prevail against Putin's army. Perhaps the hope of new life in the spring will lead to a new balance of power in Eastern Europe. I would always choose peace, and I hope that peace shall come to bring an end to the war in Ukraine soon. There have already been too many deaths on both sides and too much destruction. I would prefer that both Ukraine and Russia would end up democracies in which the people could freely choose their leaders and government. Frankly, I'd like to see more of that here, too. As this spring progresses, I would like to see our government separated from the corporations that currently hold so much of it hostage. I would like to see really free elections in which all citizens are encouraged to vote according to their consciences. I would also like to see subsidies for corporations eliminated and a better safety net for people be established, including Medicare for all and housing provided for those unable to work due to mental, emotional, and physical limitations. Where is the generosity for which our nation was once known? Where are the open doors for refugees of war and the ecological crisis? This spring, it is time to welcome in the homeless, whether they are refugees of war in Ukraine, the drug wars of Mexico and Central America, or the changing ecosystems everywhere. Wouldn't that be a fitting way to honor the vernal equinox? According to Britannica, equinox, the moment in the year when the sun is exactly above the equator and day and night are of equal length. Also, either of the 2 points in the sky where the ecliptic, the sun's annual pathway, and the celestial equator intersect. In the northern hemisphere, the vernal equinox falls about March 20 or 21st as the sun crosses the celestial equator going north. In the southern hemisphere, the equinox occurs on September 22nd or 23rd when the sun moves south across the celestial equator. According to the astronomical definitions of the seasons, the vernal equinox also marks the beginning of spring, which lasts until the summer solstice, June 20th or 21st in the northern hemisphere, December 21st or 22nd in the southern hemisphere. And according to the site Reverse Rituals, equinox means equal night, when the sun is positioned above the equator and day and night are about equal in length all over the world. This is the start of the astrological year. Many ancient cultures built structures to point directly toward the rising sun on this day every year. The celebration of the vernal equinox is about new life and hope, the planting of seeds and the activation of the fertility cycle. A look into the ancient mystery schools honoring the vernal equinox. The spring equinox is also called Alban Eiler, Eostar, Eostra, Feast of the Annunciation of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Festival of Trees, Lady Day, Nowruz, Ostara, Ostra, Rites of Spring. The old heroine of spring was the goddess Ishtar, Persian for star. Esther is the Aramaic word for Ishtar. So Ishtar was the goddess of the morning and evening star, as well as being the great mother. Shining One, Lady of Visions, Priestess of Priestess. She was the source of the oracles of prophecy and possessor of the tablets of life's records. Her symbols were the 8-pointed star, the pentagram, dove, serpents, and the double axe. Her planet, Venus. She wore a rainbow necklace. The Persians converted this necklace, the rainbow, into a razor-sharp bridge that led to the Mount of Paradise. In ancient Sumeria, she had 180 shrines where women gathered daily for prayer, meditation, and socializing. The night of the full moon, known as Shapatu, saw joyous celebrations in her temples. The magic of spring may be somewhat muted in our time by the influence of science in more dryly describing the vernal equinox as a natural occurrence each year, but we still associate many of the same things with spring as did the ancients: fertility, new life, the budding and leafing of plants and trees, births of many animals, rain and snowmelt causing streams and rivers to flow and flood, warming temperatures and lengthening days are all still associated with spring. Even though we have received very little rain in the last couple of months, this spring is still a hopeful time as the COVID-19 pandemic winds down and things return to a somewhat more normal daily reality. It's nice to go out without masks, even if many of us choose to use them inside to protect the vulnerable. Some of the battles over vaccinations and masks are now moot, even if some anti-vaxxers are still using one discredited study to oppose any and all vaccinations. COVID will still require some periodic vaccinations, like the flu, but the pandemic is essentially over in time for us to enjoy the allergy season, which comes with spring pollen, which I understand may be a period lengthening another 40 or 50 days in coming years. There are so many mixed blessings in life. I wish I could be as lighthearted as I was when I was a child, getting out to play after the snow melted and the grass started to grow. The Chicago area had a lot of dreary days during the winter, so even rainy spring days were a nice change. When the warm rains began to fall later in the spring and into the summer, it was a real joy to be outside. When the robins started arriving from the south, it was really clear that the seasons had changed. When the Cubs and White Sox came up from spring training camps to play that last exhibition game against each other before opening day, even if it snowed, it was definitely spring and all was right with the world. One other Chicago area testament to spring, when the Chicago River gets dyed green for St. Patrick's Day, a much prettier green than its usual shade. My high school band usually marched in the St. Patrick's Day parade in Chicago back in the day. They even put a green stripe down the middle of State Street. Good times. Many of our hearts are heavy with the war ongoing in Ukraine this spring. Even the practical end of the COVID